Wow, so your first All Ireland, so Aidan, back in 2004 against Mayo, and 12 months later again, you return back to Croker and you come up against a mighty Tyrone team, Aidan.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. When you win All Ireland, you want more of it, and it's always harder the following year because there's a target on your back. I always see when a team wins an All Ireland, every other team try to get to that ceiling. Where you do the same training, you try to train harder, you come back earlier. And for us, obviously, in 2004, you go on your holidays, you come back, you get through the league, and then we got to an All Ireland final against Tyrone. And look, on the day, they were the better team. To look back, of all the teams I've played against, like the quality of forwards they had, the Peter Canavans, the Dewars, the Mulligans, the Stephen O'Neills, they were just packed with brilliance of individuals, but collectively just as good. And they turned us over that day, and they, as I said, they were the rightful winners. But I think what was great about our group back then as well was when we lost in All Ireland, we kept coming back for more. It was no different to this Dublin team, like won 6 in a row. It's easy to win All Ireland, but it's to come back each year, because it's you're talking about 1%ers of the smallest thing in any game. And I found even that time that we lost in 05, but coming back to 06 again, like when you lose in All Ireland, the Tuesday after is a very tough place to be. The phone isn't ringing. No one wants to know you, as in, people leave you alone. And it's a very tough place to be in, because when there's no noise and you're in a very quiet place on your own, you have so much time to think. You're thinking of your own performance. You're thinking of the what ifs, and we always say that about games you've lost. Like, it's fine to be talking about what ifs, but realistically, on the day, the team that wins is always a team that's better, whether they got a bit of luck or anything. So, yeah, and I think what you want in is, when you win, the winter time, you're saying, geez, I never want this to end. But when you lose, you go back with your club the week after, and then you're just saying, right, I can't wait for December again to get into that bubble, to have another.
Fantastic. And would you say then, Aidan, that loss to Kerry or to Tyrone in 05, would you say then subsequently the pain of that defeat in 06 would have kind of really spurred you on as a group to just get back to winning Sam Maguire again?
Absolutely, and there's a great saying, Adrian, like, it's the only way to get rid of pain is to give it to someone else. And I know it's a hard, and I've been there myself. I've lost 4 Ireland finals, and it's the hardest place ever, because, like, you're coming out after, even in Croke Park, and you're meeting people that have supported you all year long. You have to give them time. Same with your families, because when you're playing into county, it's a very selfish business. It's all about you. You're coming home after training, and your partner or your wife, they know whether you've played good or bad, because they know by your mood. So when you lose, then, like, it just drives you on harder again. And as I said, like, you look back, it's like, now you talk about analysis. You reflect. You have to watch the All Ireland that you've lost. You reflect on your own, I suppose, individual performance, number one. Then collectively, as a group, you share your thoughts, and then you get back at it. And there's no better place, I suppose, in sport, that you'll always get a second bite of the cherry, in that, especially in J, where when a group comes along, as I said, I look at the Dublin team now, they won the 6 in a row. They keep coming back and keep coming back. And what makes it probably grouped in is fresh players.
Yes.
You're back in January, and you're saying, right, my performance might be up to scratch next year. Next, there's a young guy coming in behind you, and he's saying, well, I want to take you hit your jersey, and you're saying to yourself, I don't want to give him my jersey. And that bears great fruit in for the group.
Brilliant. That abundance of talent there, Aidan, just that, your spot is never guaranteed, regardless of how many All Irelands or your accomplishments to date.
Yeah, and I've learned that myself, I think in 2009, where you can get to the stage where you're kind of saying to yourself, well, I'm part of the furniture here now. And then all of a sudden you're sitting on the bench looking in, and when you're a sub, maybe, and I suppose this is, I talk of my own perception, is that sometimes you don't feel part of it. Maybe ideas, your thoughts aren't part of the group then, because you think you're a step back from it. So it's a tough place to be, but like that, it's I suppose it's like everything in sport. It's a learning curve. You have good days, bad days. There's obstacles, there's hurdles, and it's what you learn from it and take from it and drive on from it then.
Absolutely. So you win or you learn, absolutely. And just going back to 06-07 were really the glory days, Aidan. Beating Mayo in the All Ireland final, marking Kieran MacDonald and man of the match too that day, Aidan, and then retaining the title the following year against Cork, another All Star. Just talk to us briefly, like not many people out there listening can even imagine or dream of such accomplishments. So just like share a bit about that experience and what that actually meant to you, Aidan.
Yeah, so like I think the All Ireland final 2006. I remember Kieran MacDonald was man of the match in the semi final. He was on for Player of the Year, and he's someone I look up to myself, still do. He's one of those marquee players, once in a lifetime generation, just a fantastic guy to watch. And for me, I think to get, I suppose, the honour to be from Jack Connor, number one, to put me on him was a great thing. And then I was always of the mind frame that, don't be the one that's going to cost your team the game. You need to go out and win your individual battle. And I remember at the time I had started in the gym and I was eating up the gym, everything that we were supposed to do, did it down to tea, nutrition, diet, everything. I knew it was starting to benefit me. And that final is, I suppose, for someone like myself, there was so much talk, like the Mayo Dublin game in the semi-final, that we came under the radar a bit. Excuse me. And so that game was just massive. And then just sorry, the lunch before.
I remember Mayo beating the Dubs in the semi-final, right? That was a huge. Was that Ray Cosgrove hit the post in 0-3? It was. Sorry, Mayo and Dublin. I remember that semi-final. Fantastic game. But you were saying there, so Kieran MacDonald.
Yeah, so for me coming into the game, I think the pressure was probably on them to perform. Pressure for me was just to try to keep them out of the game. And, I can remember the game myself. I got a few lucky breaks. And when you get on ball, especially as a defender, you grow more into the game. And I found that day that, maybe he was getting maybe 60-40 balls. It was great pressure, like our forwards. Jackson Sullivan was unreal. Gooch was unreal. And when a group like that, you have days where 13 or 14 players can play well in the team. You'll never be out of 15. I think that happened for us that day. And, we were well on top early on. And, it was great, I suppose, to come back from the last 2005 and experience 2006. And again, as you said, 2007, the change of management was a great thing where Jack Connor stepped away and Pat Shea came in. So straight away, our toes again straight away. New management, fresh ideas, new players coming in. And that's always an ideal thing with sport where someone new comes in, they have new ideas, they might want to bring in new players, and that can only kind of develop the group more. And I think Pat Shea came in that time, and look, I see what he does at his own club in Crokes. He has a fantastic footballing brain. He's a very driven guy. And look, we went on to win 2007 and to win back-to-back. It was very special.
Unbelievable. So at this stage, Aidan, in your career, you've got 3 All-Ireland, and then going on to the 08 season. I know it brought its own challenges, and obviously that year you again lost to the mighty Tyrone team in the final. But just leading up to that, the semi-final against Cork, Aidan, you were marking Donica O'Connor.
Yeah, yes, but look, it's well documented. Yeah, things like I've spoken about it several times. These things happen. Like it's like a light switch moment where he gave me a nice little tap in the face, and I went to the ground. Donica got sent off. The game ended up in a draw, and I remember getting into the bus after. I think like when you draw a game or something like that, you're not really thinking about what you've actually done, and but the seriousness of it when bus and the messages are coming through. Some more from people, which I can kind of see, 100%. There's no place for that in sport, or especially G, but it's not who I was, and something like that can define you. But the problem was, like, the following week, I'd come back out and apologise publicly, and then you're straight back into a game again. Like, I remember going back into the replay, and the boos were ringing out straight away, and Donegal market again, and that was something that stuck with me for a long time, because like that, when you take sport, I suppose, so serious and you're so driven in it, then when you do something like that, it can tarnish your reputation. It was probably the first time. And even after losing to Tyrone, then I can remember after Sean Kavanagh, I think he kicked 3 points in the second half off me. And I can remember coming away after I learned. It was probably the toughest winter I put down, in that you're out and you're socialising, you're getting it from every angle. And obviously about losing All Ireland final, more importantly about the diving thing, it's all over the media and stuff. And like I hold my hand up, like I was totally falling, no other reason, like don't get nothing. And but I suppose when you're someone that plays on the line like I did, or plays on the edge, and you've that kind of tough personality from the outside, that when you do like that, then it doesn't reflect kindly on you, and there's plenty of people to let you know as well. And you look, I suppose I was someone that back then I didn't believe in sports psychology, or I didn't use it, I should say. And it was probably most important time that I used that thing, because I'd be able to tease it out, number one, why I did it, and number two, how you overcome it. But look, as I said, and I said this when I wrote the book, I grew up as a people that always kept everything to myself. I felt like that, I this kind of unbreakable thing that, the as in the pitch was the person off the pitch, but all these things were built.
100% there, Aidan. And you just kind of mentioned there the importance of sports psychology. So like there's no getting away from that in media, in the papers. When you're even playing, you mentioned the fans were booing. And some of it, as you said, like it didn't define who you were as a character. And I'm sure some of the messages, were somewhat personal. So how do you deal with that adversity, Aidan, where it just seems like outside of the core group of the team and maybe your family and friends, it seems like the whole world is against you?
Yeah, well, I didn't deal too well. I think 2008 finished off pretty bad. Where I went on the international rules for 2 weeks. We played Australia over. We came home, won, and was working one morning till 6 o'clock. I was stationed in Anglesey Street, and I woke at 2 o'clock, and I keep saying this, like there was 89 missed calls on my phone, because I knew the number came up on it, and I got the messages in, and obviously one of them was that, oh, your name's going to be leaked, that you failed a drugs test in the J. And I remember that night, my buddies, Ollie and Mike Lancy, were going up to the Munster All Blacks game in Limerick, and we stopped off in Kim Smith's, and next, like the sixth one, news or whatever came on, and they were like, in breaking, Kerry J player fails drug test. Now, when you're inside in a full packed public house, you really want the floor to open up fairly quick and swallow you. And like I can remember looking back now, and I know I'm jumping a bit, but people are saying, why didn't you talk about it? Like, it's very hard when you're splashed across media and there's pictures in the front of papers saying O'Mahony fails drug tests. There's no mention of an inhaler, or the fact that youth ball is in an inhaler. And that went on for 6 months, and it dragged into 2009. Like, it was a quiet time of the year back in November, like that, sport really as such, and GAA. So week in, week out, it was O'Mahony is going to face a 2-year ban. And then there was issues around the GPA, and they were like, O'Mahony got the grant, and O'Mahony didn't get the grant. And there was a different story every week. Now, I'd say it was fine for me. Now, my work, obviously, the very first day it broke. When you're working as a member in Garage Ghana, and next O'Mahony fails drug tests, now read too well, especially when the papers are delivered into the station, and you're right, or for someone who's asthmatic since I was diagnosed when I was 8, and had very bad asthma, and worked through my whole career to, I suppose, play in sport and be part of sport, knowing that the asthma was holding you back to some extent, and you were trying not to. And then this comes back to haunt you. You're kind of saying, it was probably the first time I can honestly say hand in heart that I genuinely said to myself in the end of 2008, start 2009, like, why are you putting a jersey on your back when this has come back to bite you? Like, I got cleared, exonerated, the salbutamol here, the whole thing went through, but I actually was drained from it, and I felt sorry for my family as well, because my parents they were elderly then, even reading that, and they're going to mass, and pick up a picture. They never said nothing to me. Like, I'm the youngest of 7. They never said anything to me, and but that's the kind of parents they were. Like, they were very kind of supportive. In 2009, I came back and just, like, I was drained physically and mentally from it, and for the first time in my career, and rightly so, because I wasn't playing good football. My head wasn't in it, and that year we went on to win the All Ireland. And like I've said this before, where I was part of it, and I love being part of it, but I wasn't part of it, if that makes sense. It was like you're there in body but not in mind. everything. Like I remember, I became very bitter about the whole things that were happening. We'll say, and the drugs thing, and I was kind of saying to myself, Jesus, like, and you deal with none of them. And then I remember 2009 finished, came back in 2010, and I was at a stage of my career then where I found my mind to be physically drained. We played the league. I was playing some really good football, and we played Tyrone. I got sent off above. We came back down at a club game. I got sent off, and it was like I was lashing out. And at the time, and I know what I'm saying is, I was a very dislikable person. I found myself socializing more after games and you're playing at that level. That's something you can do. And then on the Monday, we were going to training camp, and I loved those training camps. And I just said, enough is enough. I'd been out the night before, and I was just at a crossroads that time where, like, life was just like a routine, coming and going from work without probably satisfaction. Like I remember the weeks and the months coming up to get into the car after training, be up the road, and maybe a song come on, maybe tears coming over your eyes, and you're kind of saying, "What's wrong with you?" And like I'd walked away from sports, and like I think life was at a crossroads where I could have taken or leave it at the time. And I can remember, I think the final thing was it was a Wednesday or Thursday morning. I was sitting at breakfast, and my parents were there, and my dad was crying. And back then they were a generation that you'd never see cry. It was just who they were. And I suppose I was very lucky that my family were supportive and I needed help. And I walked into Ashari for 6 to 8 weeks, and I think it changed my life because it brought someone who's an introvert. And when I always say that, like, it doesn't change you completely. I'm still a quiet person. I still keep to myself. But I can be, I suppose, a lot more open now with people that I'm close to. Back then, I didn't. I kept everything in my whole career, felt that I probably hit the self-destruction button then in the finish where I was just all over the place. And as I said, probably not a likable person to be around, kind of, I don't know, it was just like, I just felt drained. And then you're just kind of, you push everyone away from me, or even my own family. Like I probably wasn't close to them. And, as I said, like when you see your mom and dad crying in the finish, there's, he drops in, like, and I can remember going back out, and like the one thing I always say is there's a kind of ceremony before you come back out, and you burn all your thoughts and your whatever you've tried there. And like I can remember coming in the car home, and I was saying to myself, you spend maybe your career or your lifetime worrying or thinking about what people talk or thinking about you. And like with stuff with social media and comments being passed and you're letting you filter in. And then you're coming home in a car and you're saying to yourself, you're not even worried why you went in there day one. You're not worried what people think of you going in there. And it just kind of, I suppose it develops a different person where, I suppose for me, I just needed someone to kind of unravel me some bit or unravel the mind. And yeah, so like those things that I'd look at Adrian and I'd say to myself, like, you look back, they're all kind of chapters and they all learns, and it's great. Maybe at times you're kind of saying, from the outside, people will say, geez, he has it all. He's playing football and he's a jersey in his back, and, the nights out and this and that. But you don't, you have what's in front of you. And I am always saying you have family, and we all take our own journeys. It's what you do with the journey is probably the most important thing too.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And I think it just goes to show, Aidan, as well, just the importance of self-talk. And even if someone, like yourself, who teak tough character, a real nitty-gritty defender, that your words actually, what you say to someone and your words actually do have power. And as you were kind of saying yourself, you found that hard to deal with, and just the matter of, going in for 6 to 8 weeks, talking things through and not keeping everything within. This then resulted in you, coming back, Aidan, and getting back in the Kerry jersey again. And let's just kind of fast forward then to 2014, a phenomenal year again for the Kingdom of Kerry, and of course he met up against Donegal that year in the final, Aidan.
Yeah, and I think 2014 was special in that my dad had passed away in 2012, and for me, I went on a journey where we played a club game the day after my dad died, and the day after he was buried. And I stepped into the hollow ground of Fitzgerald Stadium, and I made a promise to him that before I retire, that I climb the Hogan steps in his memory. and I didn't think it would be harder than what it was. And I suppose back then, you make promises sometimes, that we can't keep. We're always saying that in life. Important to me, and obviously in 2013, I dislocated and fractured my elbow in 2 places. And as I was lying on the ground that day injured, I think emotionally I felt that was the end of my career and that promise was gone. But luckily enough, 2014 came along, and the group came along where I suppose there was a lot of talk that we were in transition, and all that was negative outside talk was feeding positive ammunition into the group, and we new players came in and we were very driven. We climbed the Galtee Mountains after a day of kind of carnage with the ranger. They score paces and I think nearly killed us, and so all those things came together. And I suppose the importance of 2014 was the last conversation I would have had with my dad was after the All-Ireland final in 2012 and coming home on the train with my wife Denise, and he was speaking about the All-Ireland final and the glowing praise he had for Michael Murphy and watching him. And so it's amazing the way it unfolds in the 2014 All-Ireland final. I'd come up again, and like that final was, we got to be looking to finish in the mouse, and that you need luck in big days, you need something to go your way. But I think the outpouring emotion that day from that group of players was very special, in that Colin Cooper had done his cruciate to start the year, and that was something on our minds well, that we wanted so that he had the chance to actually play. Also to, I suppose, for Eamon, who would put so much time and work into, probably manager, they get the brunt of the abuse from them going well. So it was just an amazing final, as I said, for a team that was written off so much in transition. It was a sweet All-Ireland final.
Would you say, Aidan, of all the 5, that one nearly stood out the most?
Yeah, and as I said, look, it was a memory of my dad as well for me.
Yeah.
It was definitely the most important one for me. Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable, yeah. And Mark and Michael Murphy that day, Aidan. Just looking back from the 2000s and 2010s onwards, like, you would have been marking the marquee forwards all along. And just talk to us, Aidan, like, you kind of mentioned there previously that your whole goal with Kieran McDonald was just not to mess up. But how do you kind of mentally prepare yourself for these big occasions where 82,000 fans are around you, but you know that once you cross that white line, it's a one-on-one, you against your opponent, whoever wins the battle, that's going to have an impact on the overall outcome of the game. How do you prepare yourself mentally for these events, Aidan? What's on your mind, in the lead up to the game, going in the parade around and looking at all the fans? Did you have a kind of a pre-game rituals you followed, or what's that look like for you?
I think the first thing to look at is, like, after an All-Ireland semi-final, your thought goes on a final straight away. And the biggest thing is the 3 weeks leading up to it is that you need to beat your man inside in training to actually get on the team. It's like when you come in the very first day, like, it's all about you, in that you want that jersey, you want to start. So, like, the internal games or the AVP games are at a level where you've never seen before. The lads are pulling the heads off each other because the importance of being on that team or being in that panel. And then the open week is lovely, where the fans come in, and it's nice. It's kind of mellowing in that, you can get drained if you're constantly thinking about the final. Obviously, 2 weeks out, you know who you're marking. And I think the one thing I always had in my mind was, I came back, we'll say my pre-season was in the off season, where I trained maybe a month or 2 months before the lads. I made into the gym, flat smash. So I wanted to be ahead. I knew I was getting older as well, so I needed to be fitter when they came back. And then you try to keep on to that jersey from day one. And no different than All-Ireland final, you're going in and you're saying, right, have I ticked every boxes? Your nutrition, your sleep, your diet, your training. Have you gone above and beyond? Have you everything done? I'm always saying that to any young person. On any given day, anything can happen in a game where you're not ready for it, or something happens and it's out of your control. Like, as I said, 2004, there was a goal banged in earlier on, and it might have been easier to give up. We kind of look at the sidelines and say, well, Jack put me off here, where you get your game. So you might win the first ball, but there's always a second ball and there's always a third ball. The day of the game, I always sat in the front of the bus for 13 to 14 years. I sat in the inside front seat of the bus. big thing, Kerry, were big into our Peugeots. I could look at the bus and I can nearly tell you where every person sat or who they sat or what baseball hat they were wearing. And, everyone had something. And the same in the dressing room. We went to Croke Park. I was always sitting beside, I think Darren Sullivan was on my left. And there was, was it down here, a few more were near enough. We all sat in the same seats. And it's gas. When we lost, we sat in those seats as well. Like, so, but yeah, creatures of habit. And then I suppose the morning of the game, the Saturday night is good where you have your meeting, you talk openly, and there's the adrenaline is pumping. And I know a lot of people that are sports psychologists talk like this, you need to kind of taper down the night before. There's no point thinking about the game. But as a player, you're that week, you're that 2 weeks into, you're thinking about the game, you're thinking about the player, you're marking, and then the day of it, you just want to get there. And there's a great buzz in that when you're driving down to the streets and you're seeing the colour. And like I remember in the bus, you've been trying to fight back tears because it's such a huge day, and we were probably always outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1. So I knew I was in. It was that kind of way, and you'd come into the stadium and next in through the gates, and the minor game beyond. You'd go out and you watch 20 minutes, and next it's back in under the tunnel. You're inside in the dressing room, and you're trying to stay calm, but you're very nervous, and it's a great thing because nerves means that the whole thing means something to you, and then. Like when you're running out, like my thing was you pass the Sam Maguire, don't touch it and barely look at it. And like you need to enjoy the build up, then the warm up, like you're trying to hear things in the warm up, and it's kind of it's going quick enough, and you're looking at the crowds, and probably where your family are sitting and stuff like that, and you're glancing around. It's a good thing too. And then the walking behind the band is a huge thing. Like I remember the years playing the dub, and you'll be coming into Hill 16, you'll be kind of singing away in your own head. Next, and you see the Hill 16, which is blue and smoke coming down you, and a wave coming at you. And like I always think to myself, when I was, especially getting older, like you're in a position where people in life would give anything to be in. So you need to enjoy it, you need to embrace it. And in the game, it's like every time you're on the ball or every time your man gets in the ball. That's why I always love playing the full backline, because it's a one-on-one duel, especially in my career where there was no blanket defenses or systems. It was always one-on-one. So when the ball came in with you and your man, it was you against him. Like that's, as I said, that's like living on the edge. Then, like, so that adrenaline pumping through you. So yeah, I've amazing memories. Like, and like as I said, I played 9 All-Irelands. I won 5, and every one of them were as sweet as the other. You know what I mean? As in the 9 of them, because they're big days. The lead up to them, you go on for the year with the group of players. And even now, Adrian, when you'd meet them in the street, whether they were number 1 or 31, you'll always have a giggle or something because something will have happened throughout the year. But yeah, it's very sacred, and I'm always one of those players that, what happens in camps or what happens in the training and stuff, that it stays in that group, because it's like everything, it's part of who you are, and it's part of that identity that you can share with 30 other fellas.
Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. Aidan, look, just a few kind of rapid fire questions before we finish up. So I'm just curious, of all the fantastic players you would have marked, whether in Croke Park, down in Fitzgerald Stadium, who would you say is who is your favorite opponent to mark, in terms of like maybe he got an upper hand in you sometimes, you got the upper hand the other times, but you had that mutual respect leaving the pitch?
Yeah, I think Michael Murphy, like we marked each other in a couple of championship games, plenty of league games. I still see him last week. He's still doing it. He's just an amazing footballer. Like I don't think we realise how special he is yet. He's just fantastic. Better he seems to be getting. And then off the pitch, he's the exact same. What you see is probably one of the people I probably have the most respect for him. Then I suppose they were all tough. Danny, all these guys, Gooches, Paul Galvin's. Sullivan was probably one of the guys, whatever you needed him to do, he did it. He was unbelievable character. That when he spoke, he put hairs in the back of your neck. Like, so, yeah, there was some plenty of tough days, Adrian. Like with these guys, Walsh there was probably one of the toughest guys I've ever met, because he'd run. But the only good thing about those players was they bring on your own, I suppose, ability to a new level.
Performance, absolutely. And just talk to me then, Aidan, very, very, very briefly. So you would have retired 2016. Your last game was against the Dubs in the semi-final.
Yeah, 2016 semi-final, yeah.
And then 2017 it brought about Dancing with the Stars. And then of course with this too, you're still currently playing club at Rathmore, but just you mentioned, Aidan, the transition from minor to senior. You said it was accumulation of a lot of things, but one thing you mentioned was getting the diet, getting the nutrition, getting the training right. And of course, you went to Tanta College, you became qualified as an S&C, a strength conditioning coach. So just, Aidan, like, talk to us briefly about the importance and the benefits of doing the right kind of gym work to improve your performance.
Yeah, and I think when I started out, Adrian, playing football, there was no gym work. It was a case of do your own. I think probably the issue we might have now in sport is that there might be a lack of guidance where young lads are going to the gym, or young girls or young fellas or just young athletes, and they're doing stuff without guidance. They're trying to do the best in the world. I think there's an awful lot of, I know, 13, 14-year-olds now at the moment thinking they need to be in the gym, where, like, what I'd be saying at that age, it's all about your skills. It's all about learning the trade of the sport you want to play in. And then when you get to 15, 16, you're brought in with, whether it's your club or your county, it's up to an S&C coach then to develop you on from there. It's just at the young age, when young athletes are growing, that they're doing stuff that might be sufficient to them and it might be beneficial to them. And it's gone huge. Like, I see it now myself. I was back training the club last night, and the Olympic lifting I'm doing at the moment, that's what's saying. It's that years of that, notice that training age you have of being in the gym for years, of that muscle memory from running, that benefits you down the line as you get older, because you're used to that hard work, you're used to that hard slogging. Where some young lad might come in and he'll find it tough night one. We all go through that. But like, as you said there, it's the guidance where you have the nutrition, you have the recovery, you have the gym-based work. And I know a lot of times when someone hears, the gym, they're lifting this and that. They're not. It might be just like their technique work or their mobility work and stuff like that. It's what starts them out, and getting that right information from day one and bringing the whole act together. Because when you get into it, different to what I see with you, Adrian, like, when your body gets accustomed to that and you get into a routine, it's actually very enjoyable. You actually have no life outside of it. But you have, like, you're the same as me, probably, where it's part of who you are. It's like I found, like, when I stepped away from sport and everything, when I came back, I realized that it was the fitness part of the football. I loved the January and February where you're rolling through muck and your life and your things. Is this ever going to end? That's what keeps me in the edge, and that's what keeps my mind ticking over. And I think for young people now, it's about getting the right guidance and just being patient, because, as I said, back when I started out, it wasn't there. But now there might be just maybe too much, and especially with social media, and we're on it ourselves, where young lads are looking at stuff saying, right, I need to start benching this much and I need to start squatting this much. And then they're coming in at 16, 17, their mobility and movement is poor. So it's just getting the right information at the right time.
Incorporate, it's like, a fine balancing act. You got to incorporate a combination of strength, mobility, movement, agility, speed, quickness. It's all just the right dose, Aidan. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. And I just have one or two kind of final questions for you, Aidan. So obviously last September, your book was in pre-launch and then it launched in October. So just talk to us briefly, Aidan. Who's this book for? It's called Unbroken: A Journey of Adversity, Mental Strength and Physical Fitness.
Yeah, so it's for everyone, Adrian. Like, I wrote it, it's something I said I'd never do, was write a book. And then I suppose lockdown came along. And then I put pen to paper on exactly what we spoke about today, going from the highs to the was that journey of walking away from sport, walking into Sherry. It's not all about sport. There's plenty of Dance with the Stars. There's plenty of the adversity I would have found coming back from it. Look, it's for any age of life, or any sports, or not even sports. There's everything in it. And, the feedback has been fantastic. And that's, as I said, from day one, it was about just, I suppose, outpouring me into a book where people might see the person in the jersey. This will show the person outside of it. And, the journey that we often take mightn't be the right one. And this is all documented there.
Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Aidan. I just want to really acknowledge you. Thank you so much, first of all, for coming on. Just your honesty and sharing, as you said, it's not all just about the highs, it's about the lows too. And it's not all just about sport, it's about the mindset and how this really builds you from the inside out. And I love the way you said it's just part of something you do now. And nearly like, days that you don't train or days that you train are always better than days you don't train. And it's just something that you've really built into your lifestyle, Aidan. So just for any for listeners out there, Aidan, you've shared a lot here. Like, what are maybe 1 to 2 takeaways you'd like your listeners to implement?
I think from my own side, what I've learned is I think we live in a huge world now, social media, Adrian, and you need to be happy about you. What makes you happy? Like you asked me there, am I still at the club? I went out training my club last night. I have two things where I've my kids at home, where my 4 days off, I spend time with them. I just totally detox from everything that's going on with the job and training and stuff like that, and spend time with them. So it's time for me and them. And then the second thing is like the social media thing, where you need to step back from it from times and stop maybe following someone else and trying to be someone else. You are you. You're unique, so you need to enjoy that person, embrace that person, which is yourself, and just whatever suits you and whatever makes you happy, keep doing it. Like you don't need, like I said, just because I'm doing a 5K today or I'm flat out in the gym there, you don't need to follow that. You'll find every day something will make you happy, whether it's reading a book, going for a walk, talking to someone. Do that and do what makes you happy. And like everything else we see in social media, and I see this myself, it's all fluffy and colored up and stuff like that. And like me do videos there, you can throw on a filter there and it looks great and stuff like that. But just be happy in your own self. And I suppose what goes with that thing is surround yourself with people that you're close to, that will always pick you up when you do fall down.
100%. Wow. Powerful message, Aidan. That's a real power. And just, you don't need to explain yourself. If you enjoy doing something, you don't need to answer the why all the time. Like if this makes you happy, who am I or who are you to judge anyone else saying, look at this person, look what he or she is doing. You do you, let them be them, and just carry on and live your own life, Aidan. Final 2 questions before we go, Aidan. I always ask all my guests. So number one, Aidan, I'm big into like morning routines. I'm curious for you now as a busy dad and two on top of everything else. What do the first 30 minutes of your typical day look like?
So I have 2 morning routines, Adrian. So if I'm up, so I usually work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that morning routine is I get up at 6, I have either a bowl of porridge or a bowl of Weetabix, and I'm into work. And then it's daytime work. So I suppose the one thing about the guards is that when you turn the key in that door every morning, you never know what's ahead of you. I suppose that's the job we're in. The second morning then is obviously the mornings, whether I'm starting 4 o'clock in the evening, it's up. I'll be some very boring now. Porridge with the kids. I'll drop Lucia off to preschool, and then Lila, my youngest girl, 3, will stay with me. And it depends. A lot of things, it's either Zooms, I do with a study. Like at the moment, the weather is good, so I'm gardening out the back. It's fantastic, and it's therapeutic. Adrian, I think I'm one of those people that I need to be busy, and then I need to keep my mind occupied. That what I find good. I suppose when you grow up in a farm and stuff, you're constantly going. It's the life you are. You're constantly thinking you need to be doing something. So it's nice to that. Then when Denise comes home, the evening, cooking stuff, dinner, and you just chill out. So yeah, the days fly, especially with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. It goes.
No doubt, no doubt. And Aidan, just final question so before we wrap things up, because this is the Lifestyle Lifters show, Aidan, for you kind of already half answered this, but what's your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
So I'll answer it 2 ways, Adrian. Like if you were to ask me what success, like I don't know what success is. I think success is kind of living life and making most of what's ahead of you. Like I'm a firm believer, and I know from my own life, in that when you start out, you don't know what's ahead of you, and it's how you deal with it. And like I'd be first person to put my hand up and say, did I do a lot of things in the wrong way? I did. Did I learn from them? Yeah, I did. I honestly learned from them, and where I went through tough times, coming out the other side equals better times. And so success for me is, I think it's trying to be happy every day. Sure, we all have good days and bad. Money's not going to buy you happiness. Success at 50,000 followers on Instagram or Twitter isn't going to make you successful. Successful is what's in your inner self and what you believe. I think everyone's success is different. I don't need to be flaunting this and that. I just enjoy what I do to the best of my capability, Adrian. And as I said, I still have my good days, I still have my bad days, but it's trying to have more of those good days than the bad ones would be success for me.
Wow. Wow, Aidan. Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Aidan, genuinely now, such a fantastic episode. And just before we go in, where can our listeners learn more about you, about your book, about your coaching? Just please share everything with us.
So the book is, I actually have it here for you. It's only up the phone. The book is Unbroken, and you can get that. It's online. You get it in Eason's. My Instagram pages obviously are A1 Fitness and Aidan O'Mahony, and Twitter's the same. It's Aidan O'Mahony, so they're on all the pages there. Adrian. So look, if you want to see stuff like that, more than welcome. But if you don't, there's no.
I'll post all the links in the show notes, Aidan, but I just want to say thank you so much again. Absolute pleasure having you on, and a great chat was had.
Pleasure was all mine. Thanks for having me on, Adrian.